What's going on, everybody? This is Nate and Brian here with the Warriors of Light podcast, episode 8. If
Yeah.
you liked what you heard in this video, please like and subscribe. Today, we'll be talking about some concepts that I've recently become aware of and some things I've already known. One of those things is that we are aliens on this planet, and that the interpretation of the Bible is really a telling of the humankind across different planets, and also how we play into the spiritual realm of things with how everything works. Um, so we're going to talk about our origins, theories, and opinions. This is no fact, really, because no one really knows. And we're also going to talk about um, pretty much how energy plays into things and how um, the difference between letting things flow and trying to force things to happen. So, Brian, if you want to kick it off.
So yeah, hey Warriors, see you guys. Hey, we're happy to have you guys here. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Like what Nate just said, it's like we're looking at. We had a conversation outside of us being on camera and talking about how we are most likely uh not true humans. And I know that sounds crazy. I'm sure people are like, "What the hell is wrong with you guys?" Like that. It's like and like I'm okay with people thinking I'm crazy. But I'm just saying, like we like there are all these things like the Palladians, the what was
Arcturians.
yeah sure yeah, and you think about how we are all like different, completely different. Like, like we all think that we're here like just as humans, and like, that's what we were taught, right? That's what we were taught by religion, taught by families, taught by whoever. And I tell people all the time, like, I'm not trying to knock anybody. I'm just telling you, like, man, like we are completely different. And then Nate, what did you mention earlier? The people
So
that are
what I mentioned earlier is it kind of plays into the Bible in that the story of the Bible is basically a story of quote unquote aliens, and that we have we're basically the descendants of a higher species, so to speak, of the Anunnaki. So what the Anunnaki
yeah.
theory is that a greater being came to this world. They found beings on Earth, and they crossed their DNA with the local populace on Earth to create workers for them, and that um, we are descendants of this sort of I don't want to sound crazy, but like a master race of beings who they created us, but then we kind of delved into our own thing. And the story of the Bible and the book of Enoch is a telling of that. And our ancestors, the only way they could describe it is that it was God and angels. And this is not to say to discount God and angels, because I still believe in God.
Of course, absolutely.
But um, our origins go back a long time, like way further than what we're taught.
Well, I think we were taught that it was 2,000 years ago, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with Jesus, and I'm like Jesus, and again, you and I've had this conversation multiple times. I think, you know, I love Jesus. Jesus, like, literally went into like India and like was taught about meditation and our power, and that's why like I try to tell people. I don't try to convince anybody because I don't need to. But I tell people like like so Jesus like supposedly was gone for X amount of years in the Bible, right? I was like, so where was he? People were like, well, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I was like, but you're trying to teach it in a church and you're trying to tell people, hey, he was born and then he was gone and then he's back and he's this amazing guy and he got crucified. No, dude, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, he literally like fucking went off, learned, learned about like, this deep like teaching because we are all a part of God. We are all God's kids. Like tell me if that's how you want to like, I guess name
Yeah,
it.
we're all the children of God.
We're all
When you
children of
think
God.
about it.
Whether it's like
Even
like,
even if you believe in the Anunnaki theory, where do they come from?
well, no shit. From where? From one creator, right? And that's what I tell people. Like, so even like you said, yeah, 100%. Anunnaki, the Palladians, like all of them. Like, there's one creator. Like, how the hell did we all come up? Just random? Like, no shit. We all, we had one creator. But and that's what I'm saying. It's like, and so that's why I say it's like, and so when I think about Jesus, I'm like, yeah, I love Jesus. And Jesus said, hey, he went and learned about meditation, he went and learned about our power. I mean, he knew obviously, but we all come into this place of, for here to be teachers. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna discount Jesus because I think that Jesus is one of our greatest teachers there's ever been. But at the same time, I'm like, man, like people just it's misinterpreted in like religion, you
Well,
know.
I think it's misinterpreted in a way that our ancestors described it in the best way that they could. So, like, when you look at what I was watching on Gaia, if you haven't watched Gaia, I highly recommend getting that app and downloading it and watching Gaia, because there's been many presentations and many it's circumstantial evidence, as the gentleman described in the video, that we are an interplanetary species.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you think about it, and I've always believed this since I was a very young child, is that we're different from every other thing on this planet, right? So, but I still believe that we exist on three realms of existence: the spiritual, the intellectual, and the physical.
Absolutely.
But we are descendants of a higher race or a higher species, because we're the only animal on this planet, if that's the term that you want to use, that is capable of doing what we do. So, what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is that on Gaia, they went into the Egyptian pyramids, and they say that it's a king, and even goes into the book of Enoch, and the book of Enoch says that Enoch himself, and this goes back to the Ethiopian Bible, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that they say the way our ancestors describe it is that they came from the heavens, which is the sky, and they took Enoch because he was the only one in his village who like didn't run away, and that they brought him onto their ship, because the way to describe it is they took him into the heavens and they taught him engineering, architecture, math, and they even go into the fact that our whole solar system is created and measured. Like, there's a measurement between each planet in our solar system. There's a measurement of the sun, and it's
Yes.
all in a codex in the Egyptian pyramids. So it makes me think, it's a very interesting thing, because it kind of reinforces kind of what I've always felt that I knew since I was a kid. Like, we're not from this planet. So they go on to say that we are the aliens, which kind of makes sense when you look at every other creature on this planet and then you look at us, right? We are totally different. There's no other creature on the planet that can do what we do. So, um, what the theory is that the Anunnaki came to Earth to basically plant seeds to colonize it for whatever reason, and they needed workers to work the ground, do the dirty work, basically. And so they found a being that already existed on this planet, Earth, and no one knows where they came from, except they do say that you can see where the Anunnaki came from the stars, and that we were created to work for them, but we're basically engineered to be as one. So basically, what the story is that they combined their DNA with the species that was here, and that the story of the Bible, the book of Enoch, angels, and all that other stuff is it's us, but the theory is that in layman's terms, humans have been around for millions of years, not thousands.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
100%. We've been around here for a whole lot longer than what the Bible says. And
but they also talk about our spiritual gifts, because this kind of brings me into, I don't know if you've ever, Brian, if you ever looked into Bigfoot or anything, but
Mhm.
whenever someone runs into a Bigfoot, they say that it's telepathic. It can communicate with you without speaking words. They're very rare to find. So I feel like Bigfoot might be the species that was here when our, for lack of a better term, forefathers found this planet. Because as humans, we have, whether you realize it or not, we have spiritual gifts. We all have spiritual gifts. Some of us are not awakened to them. We have telepathic gifts. We have gifts for healing, and it's all energy based and spiritual based.
100%. That's, dude, 100% truth is that we all have amazing gifts. We just don't know it, right? And we were told, we were conditioned,
We
we
were
were
programmed.
programmed. Exactly. Thank you. I was just about to say it, and see, there's my brother. Uh, we were programmed to believe that we don't have anything but what we were taught, and you know, I get so tired of it, man. Like I swear to God, like when I live in this life, I'm just like, I'm like, whether it's my kids, my parents, I'm talking to whoever, I'm just like, do you understand that like we were like so programmed to be so minimal? I was like, but yet at the end of the day, we're like fucking amazing.
We each, dude, the thing that bothers me,
Uh,
especially with what's going on in this world, is that each of us as an individual has so much power. But what does society program into us? We don't have power unless we're a part of the collective.
well, that's the thing. Exactly. So what do they tell you? You have to fit in, right? Dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never fit in. I've
Neither
never.
have I. I've always been I've this that's why my favorite color is black. I've
Yep.
always been the fucking black sheep.
Yep. I've never fit into anybody. I've always, not always, I can't say I've always, but I guess I tried multiple times. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to, whatever. Um, and it's amazing because I just never got there. Um, but like, as a medic, as a SWAT medic, as who I was, like people used to always be like, God damn, like you fucking like you're different. You lead. You do this. You do that. And it wasn't like, I'm not saying that like patting myself on the back by any means. It was just simply like I was always different.
Well, you
You know.
and I had the discussion. We were put here to be leaders and to awaken people, which is the conversation I had with my wife. And we watched on Gaia. I can't remember his name. I'll try to find it so I can tag it in the description. But
Well,
he's a Norse pagan spiritualist, I guess you could say, is the best term I can come up with right now.
there's like,
Um,
well, like Gaia has like Robert Grant. Gaia has Joe Dispenza. Um,
his name was like Kydrick or something, Kadrick or whatever. He's like
uh,
a he's like a he's specifically Norse bound, but what he said was that he was raised in a spiritual family, so he's always aware of another realm.
oh,
And he said that, but what I'm getting at is we're called Warriors of Light, and me and my wife were watching it last night, and he mentioned the fact that like death, because we talked, he was talking about life and death, and Vikings, the Scandinavian countries in ancient times, lived hand in hand with these spirits. So what he was saying is that warriors, and I believe this, and I've always believed this, is that because warriors have to accept death,
Hmm.
we're more open to that spiritual realm.
You know what's amazing? See, it's I'm telling you, swear to God, dude. Like people listening to us, like this guy is like has no according to our physical realm, he has no family tie to me, but I swear to God, he's my fucking brother. I swear to God, like you're meant to be my brother. Anyway, it's crazy because I don't like, dude. Like death to me is nothing.
Death is
It's
just another part of life. It's the
dude.
next step. It's the next step in our
It's
soul's journey.
it's a minimal thing, and I listen to people and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, Brian just got disconnected. Let's see if we can invite him real quick. Stand by. Oh goodness. Hold on, audience. I don't. He might have some internet issues. Oh, oh, there we go. But what Brian was about to touch on is that we're not here for just the physical realm, because in Gaia they talk about the 3D to the 5D, and that mankind is moving towards a place where we don't need war anymore. When you look at what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, and you look at the Middle East and all this other bullshit, it doesn't matter. Welcome back, Brian.
We're gonna have to re fucking figure this out because my son decided to unplug my fucking phone.
My charger.
Oh my lord. Why is his pride getting in his way?
Right? No shit, because he thinks he owns everything. That's what it is.
No, we're still recording. I kept it going while you were gone, so it's fine.
Well, I'm glad you kept it. Thank you for keeping it going.
But what I was talking about was like I got into the aspect that us as a species were going into the realm of things where those of us who are awakening, we're realizing that war is no longer needed, and
No.
that we're going from the 3D realm to the 5D realm,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that and I was talking about how we're ascending, and those who are awakened,
Yep.
our job is to
Love that.
awaken others.
Yes, and I love that, and I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that, Nate. Um, because we are so. You and I were talking about it earlier. I brought it up. Dolores Cannon. So
Yep.
anybody that look her up online, look her up on YouTube. Dolores Cannon's like, dude, amazing lady. Um, and she talked about what we're doing now, like how we're ascending now. She talked about that in like 2013, and I'm
It's
like,
crazy. In 2013, I was in Afghanistan.
and that's what I'm saying. It's crazy because she was like speaking of this stuff, and people are just like, oh my god, like blah blah whatever. I'm like, dude, you have no clue. I'm like, she's literally like fucking telling you, like we're like already ascending. At that point, we're already ascending. Um, and she goes, the people that if you go listen to her, she'll talk to you. She goes, the people that don't want to let go of the old way of thinking, she goes, are gonna have such a hard time because they're gonna be stuck in the 3D world and they're gonna be have such a hard time. And I'm like, dude, like I'm over here fucking like ready to like let's rock and roll. I'm like, let's go, let's move on. I was like, because it's funny because you and I even talked about this before too, and I was just like, dude, I was like, I don't know, man, it's crazy. It's like I've literally like been in this world, obviously. I'm 42, and I have so many times and so many things that I just don't feel like I fit here, like at all.
Yeah, I have the same thing. And
You and I.
what I was gonna go into, I was gonna actually tell a story of when I was deployed to Afghanistan. because there's a lot of lineage there in the Middle East. And if you don't mind, Brian, I'll tell my story
I,
about.
oh hell yeah, go for it. I
So,
go for it.
when I was younger, when I was deployed to Afghanistan, I was 21. And I'm not trying to say anything for clout. I was deployed one time for almost a year of my life. It's a part of my life I'll never forget, but it was significant to me because I believe that in a way, I didn't realize it then because I was programmed to believe that everyone was my enemy.
Yeah.
But I met this old man. All right. This is my story about a glimpse of a few seconds in Afghanistan, not the whole 9 months. I had this old man. He had a white robe with like the little Afghan vest thing and the hat and everything. And he said to me, he said, Assalamu alaikum.
Mm.
And I just, and you know what creeps, you know what, I still think I will never forget this to this day. And for the rest of my life, I will never forget this. And now that I'm more spiritually aware, it makes sense. He said to me, Assalamu alaikum. And I didn't know what to say back. I
Mm.
was there. I had a pistol on my hip, and I'm like, "What?" You know? And I'm just like, I'm frozen, dude. It froze me completely because assalamu alaikum means peace be upon you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to have a response, which I believe it is alaikum. I'm not going to butcher it, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I think about that I think about that interaction almost every day because I never saw that old man again.
Mm.
I never saw him again. And I was at that outpost for a month and I never saw him again.
Wow.
Now
Mm.
that I think back on it, and I don't care who says, I mean, oh, Nate's crazy, whatever, I don't care. I think that was either an angel or a God
Mm-hmm.
speaking to me. Like I believe that that was God because there's the way it happened, man. Like he said, peace be upon you in a war zone. He said it in a war zone. And I'm like, but at that time, I just froze in place. I froze in place, and I will never forget what he looked like. He had a white beard. He had the Afghan, like little flat hat thing, like Aladdin kind of, but not quite. It was more like Muslim dress, right? And he had white robes, and he was being respectful to me, and I didn't know what to say. And now that I think about it, I feel bad because now I know what to say back. But it's like in that instance, to me, that was almost like meeting God in a way, because I
What
don't know,
think
I
about
don't,
that?
I don't know how to explain it. It's just a feeling like I'm in the middle of this war zone and this outpost, and this dude
Yeah.
that I never met before, like, dude, it was almost like he appeared out of nowhere, and he said to
That
me, "Peace." He said to me, "Peace be upon you," in Arabic, and I'm like, or Farsi or whatever, and I'm like, or you know, and I'm
that's
just like, and
what I'm wondering.
now that I think about it though, it has a very significant impact on me.
Yeah.
Like I can't, I will, it's burned into my memory. And I think that might be why I froze. Now that I think about it, is because was he a human? Was he a spirit? Was he God?
Dude.
But how magical is that an elder, a man who appeared to me as an elder, because in Afghan culture, an elder is like cream of the crop, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
No, I know.
And but that's the thing is as humans, that's why as humans, like we perceive things, but we don't always understand them until years later. And
Well,
but
but
now that I think about it,
think about it.
I'm
When
just
we,
like, man, was that God?
dude, very, very well could have been because, and the thing is, that's amazing. Like, I love that.
I will never forget it either.
Amazing. Huh?
I can't get it out of my head. I remember I remember the environment. I remember where I was. I remember how I felt.
Mm.
Like That doesn't happen to me very often.
That's amazing, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, So what I try to tell people is that yeah, dude, you just that story just threw me off. Like, holy shit.
I know, man. Dude, I'm telling you, like at the
Like it,
time,
like it threw me out because I'm like, dude, there's a grand purpose for it. I believe there's a grand purpose for everything. Um, that was amazing though. That's awesome. I
but
mean,
but yeah, my perspective is I'm trained for war. I'm trained to go fight and kill the enemy. Even though I wasn't a combat arms guy, whatever you veterans, you can comment if you're infantry, special forces, because I worked for special forces, and my job was to go to different outposts throughout Afghanistan. Go, hey, they're like, hey, Ackle, you're gonna go on this fucking bird at midnight. You're gonna go fly out to this place in the middle of fucking nowhere. And the first place I go to, I meet this gentleman and I never see him again. And I'm like, at the time, I didn't really, I just froze. Like, it was the same, it was almost the same reaction I had to when I was mortared, like back to
yeah,
back to back in the same day. Like, we were mortared a lot where I didn't think I was going to live. Um, which is why I have a different perspective on death.
which is why I told you, not why I told you. There's not a reason I told you for that, but my actually it's funny because my dad and I were just talking about it earlier. That I told you that call that I went on as a SWAT medic and fucking
Yeah,
like
man.
on the military, but like fucking like and this guy was wanted for murder from Oakland, and he fucking sat up and pulled his gun, and then we all just started fucking firing, and it was like holy shit. And I'm thinking like, dude, and I'm the medic, so I'm like, oh fuck, like, we just killed him, and fucking I went over, I had to run over to him, and he was hit with rounds, but he was not. It wasn't his kill zones. He was fine. Um, well, he wasn't fine. He was fucked up, but he was fucking like not dead. And I just remember just being like, God damn! I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was like, fuck, because I remember like fucking like he sat up, he pulled the gun, we fired, we get in there, and I'm like, dude, in an apartment, in a fucking apartment. I'm
Yeah,
like,
man, you must have been conflicted, but also like this had to be done.
well, because my thing was like I was just like fuck, like like I thought he was which shitty thinking, I guess at that point. I was like, he should be dead. I was like, fuck it, he's dead, he's done. And I went over there and he's fucking still breathing and he's good because everything hit him like all around. I was like, dude, I was like, you are the luckiest motherfucker. And I was like, because every one of our rounds went around you, like no kill zone, like fucking just like he was good.
Damn, it was like Pulp Fiction.
Dude, it was so stupid. Like it was so stupid, like the way it hit him. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, God damn. And so I was just like, fuck this, everybody's good, like blah blah, whatever. And then we call in fucking ambulance and they fucking take him out. And I'm just like, yeah, this dumb motherfucker. But it's like, hey, but you know what? That ended up being his fucking shitty ass fate because that motherfucker was wanted for murder and he had to go to fucking prison for a long time. And so I was like, yeah, I was like, dude, I would have rather have been fucking shot. I was like, just put one in my head and just let me be gone at that point. But yeah, but I
Well,
think I think about that kind of shit. And I'm just like, it's kind of like you and I've talked about. Like we've talked about, like obviously you in the military, like dude, you had all kinds of shit like hit you all the time. And that was my thing. Was like with that, I was just like, dude, like well, obviously as a medic, I saw all kinds of stupid shit, but that one was just like one of those ones where I was like, I felt like I was in fucking war. I was like, what the fuck, like, dude. I was like, why the fuck are we here? Like, what the fuck's going on?
but you know what's bothered me, Brian, is that at the time I didn't like I knew what to say, but I couldn't say it. I was frozen. And I wish there's a part of me that wishes I could say it back. And what it is wa alaikum salam, which means and unto you peace.
Mm,
I wish I could have gotten those words out of my mouth, but I
yeah,
couldn't. I couldn't, and I think a part of that is because of my programming then. Like I was programmed like everyone's the enemy because
Mm-hmm.
When I first got in country, we had dudes get killed like within the first month of us being there, right? But to me, it bothers me still because I feel like it was is to this day I feel like it's disrespectful that I didn't say it back.
Yeah.
You know? So like it bothers me because I also worked with local Afghans, and that's what made me realize that like we're all human. Like we're all the same. Like I worked with local Afghans who are like, we're so glad you're here because you're providing for our family. Like we can work for you and you pay us. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have it's guerrilla warfare. You have people you don't know who's your friend and blah blah blah. And I had to be a lot of the times when I was going to places, I was by myself. They're like, "Hey, get on this fucking helicopter, go to this outpost." But like I wish I could have mustered the words to say back to him out of respect alone.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Because what if that was an angel? What if that was God? Like what if that like
Yeah.
I will never forget that man.
Yeah.
But just like you were talking about, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is that warriors have a deeper respect for life and death than most people.
Well, it's like we said earlier, is that we I think we see the end of, well, the end of life. I guess things are the end of life. The end of physical life is not a big deal. Like
It's really not. It's
it's
really
really
not.
it's really not to me. Like I don't, dude. My body when it's done, I'm done. Like I don't care. Like I'm not worried about it because my soul is eternal. My soul is still going to keep going. And so, wherever I'm supposed to be after that, I'm supposed to be. But like at the end of the, at this point where I'm like, dude, my fucking, my body's done. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, and it's funny because like I have my family, of course I have my family, like, and they're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Like, you have kids, you have grandkids. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I love my kids and my grandkids. Man, this weekend, like, I had a great time with I had my my grandbabies, my two little boys, and loving them, loving on them, doing all this shit. But I'm like, dude, I'm
Well,
like, but I'm okay with fucking like
that's what I'm
this.
saying, man. I was about to ask you, but do you have the same feeling that I do? Like for me, with that warrior mindset, that's why I posted that reel where it's
Mm-hmm,
like you want what all soldiers want is an honorable death, right?
mm-hmm,
Because we know one thing we know death is not the end, but we also know that being honorable is the way. It's the way.
of
Whether
course,
you're an accountant, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a
I don't.
fucking politician, with
I don't
politicians really don't have any honor.
they're all shitheads anyway. So yeah, most.
Honor to me as a warrior, honor is like the defining attribute that we all have, you know? Like to have respect and honor even if they're your enemy.
And yes, yeah, 100%. And the thing is too is this is the thing, dude. Like, I think you and I've had this conversation before. It's like I don't claim to be perfect because I know, dude, I
None of
falter.
us, dude, none of us are perfect.
Dude.
We're all human. We all have that animal instinct and we're all fucking just trying to live our lives. So when you're like, and you can relate to this, Brian, when you're in some type of violent environment, you're both fighting for what you believe in. But at the same time, that makes you brothers.
Yeah, of course. And that's what I'm saying. It's like fucking, I have that. I have like I always tell people like it's funny because I always tell people like if you want me to explain it to you, I tell people like I have a good and a bad wolf in me, right? And they both want to be fed, right? They both want to be fed. So don't get me wrong. Like I'm over there fucking like trying to feed that good wolf, like, hey, come on, baby. But then all of a sudden I'm like, the bad wolf wants to be fed too. Like here we go, and that
That's a good point because in the military, we're trained to feed the bad one.
yeah. Well, and I tell people, I'm like, listen, um, I have to, whatever you want to call it, learn how to fucking feed both, man. Like, I'm sorry,
You
and
do, because
and one of my
especially as men,
yes,
we are engineered by whatever you want to call it, by God or whatever. You ever see those memes where it's like, oh, the masculine urge to fight off the enemy while the rest of your family and loved ones get away?
yeah,
Like, that's what we're built for.
and that's my thing. Is like I'm like so. You know what's crazy, Nate? It's funny. Is obviously you and I've talked about this. Yeah, I can put it out there now on the podcast, which I don't care. I've been married and divorced several times, right? And I'm like, and what's crazy to me is that fucking like it's because I had that or have that warrior. I've learned now, like, and I figured it out now why I was doing what I was doing. But I always had that warrior, like in me, and that warrior, and that fucking, like all these things, right? And I always had this like this aspect of me where it was like, God damn, like fucking this guy's gonna. And it's funny because it's like my kids, like Anthony, well, I can talk about one of my sons, and he always says that he goes, if that person says like whatever, they're like, some kind of threatening thing. He's like, my dad will go over there and fucking scare him, and I'm just like, no, I know. I was like, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be that way. I'm like, I don't try
Well,
to be,
hey, I agree. I
but
agree with you because with my son, I try to, my son is only 7 years old, but I still try to teach him honor.
yeah,
Like
well, and that's
stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. That's what I
yeah,
try to teach my son, you
and
know?
that's
And
like,
that's what our spirit is. That's what your and I's spirit is to protect the innocent but also as a father to a son, you have to
100%, like,
a
protect,
father to a son, you have to pass on that knowledge so that this
dude,
cycle
dude.
continues of honor and respect.
Yeah, and 100%, like, protect the innocent, and like that's my thing. Is like he knows that, and I was like, dude, I said, fucking, when I was a kid, I go, I was the one that would protect the ones that were getting like bullied.
Same,
Yeah, dude,
same.
I protect the ones that were bullied, and I really feel I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like fucking like the reason I fucking like came to a place in my life where I was like, I just gotta fucking be this big like muscle bound masculine dude because I'm like, I'm gonna go fuck people up. And then like when I started fucking learning how to fight and fucking wrestle and do all this shit, and I just like people were just like, motherfucker. They're like, dude, you fucking can hit somebody once and they're like asleep. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I don't know why. I was like, but it was like this place of like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I said. Like, like that's what Anthony's mom was saying. He was like, yeah, he goes, my mom was saying how you would just like hit someone really hard once and they'd go to sleep. And I was like, well, and they didn't go to sleep. I was like, I knocked them out. I was like, but I was like, but I didn't mean to. Like, I wasn't doing that because I was trying to. I was like, it was more of a, I don't know. I
It
don't
was an
know.
instinct. You know what it is? It's an instinct because I had
Yeah.
the same thing when we lived in Connecticut. We had no fences. So me and my wife were yet again back then. We've gone through many trials and tribulations. Uh but there was a German shepherd that was let loose and it was like snarling, dude. It was like and it rushed. My wife and my son were running around and I was there with them in the backyard. And this fucking dumbass let her German Shepherd run up to us, right? No leash, no fucking control, right? I got a little fucking pocket knife on me, but my spirit and that warrior mindset is like, nah. My
Yeah.
daughter was even outside too. I was the so in that instance, I was prepared. I was like, this thing might go for my throat, whatever. It was full on running at us. So what I did was I pulled my knife and I yelled at it and it fucking stopped. Like literally, it stopped maybe 10 feet away from me.
Um,
And I was in front of and my wife and my son were right behind me. And I was like, prepared. I was prepared mentally, spiritually, and physically. Now that I think about it, at the time I was just like, all of it was primitive. At that time, I was like, I'm gonna
Well, yeah,
I'm gonna fucking get bit, but I'm gonna kill this thing in the process, you know. But
yeah,
like, but that mindset, like, that's where positive. That's where actual masculinity comes in. Is like you will fight, kill, and die for the ones that you love, and that's what
yeah,
being a warrior is about.
yep,
Is you're not gonna always win, but you will always fight. So like I was
yep,
prepared, and even my wife, dude, my wife after that, she was like, "Holy shit! Like you were ready, like you were like on point, like ready to fucking kill this fucking beast that was
yeah,
charging us."
yeah.
Because it charged us, dude. Like it fucking. And what I did was I pulled my knife, I got in a combat stance with my legs and shit, and luckily it stopped. But it stopped because I yelled at it because as humans
Isn't
you
that
know
crazy? Isn't that crazy though? Like you would have, god damn, that would have been,
I could have gotten my throat ripped out. I don't know, but I would have fought. I still would have killed it in the process because my that's my mindset is like you're not gonna get to my wife and kids.
yeah,
You're gonna fucking fight me and me only.
yeah,
You know. But that's a lot of men these days when you talk about masculinity. Like think about that for a second. With the way society is trying to raise men, quote unquote, like
yeah.
a lot of men would be like, "Oh, I gotta run away and get inside," and they'd leave their wife and like you ever see a video of some dude robbing a store and he's with his girl or whatever, and the dude hides under the counter, but the woman is like standing there,
Hey,
like ready to fight him, you know?
so, so this is the thing, dude. Um, and I know it's like a whole different topic, but anyway, like Jason Aldean has that song "fucking Small Town," and like fucking, there's that one. He has that that video of that one dude, and those guys come in to rob that store, and that fucking country boy fucking like just goes at him, and I'm just like, that's what I'm talking about right there. It's like, because that would be me. That would be me. I'd be like, oh, you got a gun, bitch? You better shoot me, motherfucker, because you're gonna
Dude,
fucking, you don't, you know,
dude, that's
and
what I'm saying, man. That's why we're brothers, because I have the same fucking dude.
dude,
When
yeah,
I tell people I'm from Vermont, I'm like everyone when I say I'm from Vermont, people are like, "Oh, you're a Democrat, you're a Bernie supporter." Like, no, motherfucker. Like, I'll kill you. You know what I mean? Like, if you
yeah,
fuck with me or the people that I love, I'll fuck you up because that's how I was brought up. Is like you. It's just a different mentality, dude. I don't know how to describe it.
that's what people don't get. They were like talking all this shit about like Jason Aldean's like fucking video or whatever, his fucking song or whatever, and
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. You mean when
yeah,
he was doing the pro America one?
yeah, the small town, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I was like, I remember fucking like, I remember like the first time I watched it, I fucking posted that motherfucker on my shit because I was like, oh yeah. I was like, bruh. I was like, you know, like I'm like when I saw that one dude, like those guys came into the store and fucking they were trying to rob the store with guns, and that motherfucker went at him, and like the one of them, like he was trying to get out as fast as he could, and I was like, yeah, I was like, dude. And that's what my dad told me. He goes, yeah, he goes, you're the same motherfucker. He goes, you would have done that too. I was like, dude, I was like, I would have fucking broke his neck, took his fucking gun, being like, yeah, all right, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, not to be an asshole, but that's just who I am. Like, you know what I mean? I'd just be like, oh,
Well,
you're
that's
you're,
what.
you're gonna come rob him? Like, oh no, bitch, you're not robbing him. I'm in here. You came in at the wrong time. Like, I'm about to fuck you up, and you're all fucked. You know what I mean? Like, these guys would have known that shit like hella quick. Like,
Well, that's what positive masculinity is
yeah,
strength, love, and order.
yeah,
So when we see something that's not one of those things, we have to act.
absolutely. Well, it's yeah, 100%, absolutely. Like, so you're coming in to do something that's 100% wrong against like who we are as humans, quote unquote humans. Um, so I'm over there like, dude, I'm like, nah. I'm like, you think I'm gonna like let that happen? Like, that's like, yeah, no, not gonna happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like we're talking about how mankind is ascending to the point where we don't need war, which I truly believe in. Because
No, no, absolutely, because it's what you were saying. Like, well, you and I both know this. We're ascending to the 5D, right? So fifth dimension is like it's all like love and peace and like that's what it is, right? It's like it's all like love and peace and a great thing. Um, so why would we need war at that point?
Yeah, like, but this is the problem with human nature is that you have to prepare for peace, but uh, fucking be ready for war.
Yes,
Because
but
other humans, because other the actions of other humans could force you into that scenario.
yes, you're 100% right. But I think that I do believe in it. So I think you and I've had this conversation a few times, but like us ascending to our 5D and stuff like that, like it is all like a place of love. So that's why I try to tell people. So this is the other thing. See, let's go back to the Bible we were talking about earlier. I'm like, Jesus literally told people, like, hey, do you know that we're here for unconditional love and fucking infinite grace, right? And religion says no, like you fucked up, you're this, you're that. I'm like, dude, like that's not what Jesus was teaching. That's why read the Bible again. Jesus wasn't teaching that. um and so you think about like when I look at like us ascending to the fifth dimension, is it's all about unconditional love and grace, and and you live in a place of like, so that's what I'm telling you is like, for people listening to our podcast, like, dude, like, please go listen to Dolores Cannon, because most people will like listen to her and be like, oh my God, she knew what she was talking about back in the day. And she knew what she was talking about. She was like, yeah, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to go live in this infinite grace, infinite love. Like, that's what the fifth dimension is. And she talked about that back in 2013. And I tell people, I'm like, that's what we've been like ascending to for all this time. I was like, but it's like, dude, and the thing is, this is the other thing, as they talked about, is that people holding on to the 3D, it's going to be miserable. The people holding on to 3D, and I'm not trying to put people down, but like, if you're trying to hold on to that life, it's going to be one of the most miserable fucking experiences that you have.
Yeah, because you're going to be stuck in our primitive, like
Yeah.
I've always believed
Yep.
that as much as mankind tries to advance, we're still holding on to the primitive mindset.
It's the survival mindset, right? That, again, the monkey mind. That's what I
Yep.
tried. It's your stupid fucking, sorry, God, but it's your stupid fucking monkey mind. Because I'm like, dude, you're literally trying to hold on to this old way of living and thinking, and it's not benefiting you by any means, because we no longer have the fucking tiger chasing us out of the cave. You
No,
know,
it's each other.
dude. But it's fucking the human mind, and I'm just like, my God, I'm like, what is wrong? Like, sorry, but there's a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, we're a bunch of bozos, and I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck? At what point do you get out of that stupid ass monkey mind and figure out that we are so much smarter than that, and we are part of God? We're part of God.
Well, that's the thing about you talking about the monkey mind is that when you look at it's all about the frequency that you're on, the wavelength that you're on.
Mhm.
A lot of people can't look past what they see on the news. They're just like, "Oh, Russia and Ukraine. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck Russia." But then you have someone like Tucker Carlson who goes to interview Putin and goes to Russia, and he's like,
Yes. Yeah.
this is like 1990s America right now.
No shit. Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, are
Yep.
we really like? You ever reflect and you're like, is our country the bad guy? You know?
Just think about all the way fucking it's like, dude, think about like what we're like living off of. Like, I mean, oh my God, like you just said, you're 100% right, dude. It's so crazy. It's like, it's so fucking crazy, because we are literally living off of like, and that's why I tell people, like, why are you watching the fucking news? The news has been lying to you for fucking ever.
At least
You
the
know?
past 40 years.
Oh, dude, for a long time. And it's like they're bought by all these, pharmaceutical, all these things. And I'm like, dude, what are you okay? Like listening to this bullshit? Because they've been lying to you for fucking ever, you know?
Yeah, it's
And then,
about.
and then what do? They try to convince you to be a certain fucking side or a certain this or a certain that. And I'm like, dude, it's like, those motherfuckers just don't care about you at all. Like, zero.
Well, that's why everything that's happening in our society right now is happening because most people are just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do what the television tells me," instead of fucking like thinking for yourself.
But you know what I'm so grateful for is I think you and I talked about this when we first met, and I was like, dude, I was like, everything. I said, I think I told you, I was like, that everything's breaking down, right? And you were like, yeah. I was like, all the systems are breaking down, all the bullshit's breaking down. I was like, our banks and all this shit, and like, and what's happening? Like, all these motherfuckers are falling through the fucking roof, and I'm like, I fucking love it. I was like, yes, woo. I'm like, fuck you guys, because fucking you were all built off of bullshit, and now thank God they're all fucking falling apart. You know?
Yeah, it just makes me think like when we can look past our primitive mind, we can accomplish so much more.
No shit. Right? The pastors, yeah, 100% past your survival mind. I mean, like, we think we're always here to survive. I'm like, dude, we're not. We are not here to survive. Like, fucking, we're okay. Like, we're good. Like, we're gonna be good no matter what, And people just, and that's why, and I always tell people I go back to that old saying from Albert Einstein. He said, what are your thoughts? He goes, do you live in a friendly or a fucking like negative universe? Basically, I was like, dude, like we live in a friendly universe. Like my universe is always working for me. I'm like, I know that.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you just said because we're all the creators of our own reality.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you think about it, you know, I know uh, I've probably mentioned him before on our podcast, but like Wayne Dyer was one of my biggest spiritual mentors, and he always said he goes one of the biggest things he taught people. He goes, I have this one sentence. He goes that really fucking is the truth of everybody. He's like, I am God. I am God, right? Anything that follows I am is fucking amazing, right? And I tell people, like, that's why I always tell clients, I'm like, hey, I'm like, whenever you say something like I am, like, don't say anything negative. Because so many people will be like, I am. And then they'll be just like talking shit to themselves. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I think I'm fucking amazing, you know?
Well, yeah, because you have to be careful because people let that shit go to their monkey mind and they're like, "Oh, I'm all powerful to a
Well,
degree."
not,
But
but
no,
yeah,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, where it's like we are more powerful than what we believe. So if we speak negative, we will have negative. If we speak positive and believe positive, then we'll have positive. You know?
yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like, my whole thing is like, you know, I am are two of the strongest words. I mean, I tell people like biblically, like you can say, biblical or whatever, but like I am is like two of the strongest words you can have in the Bible or, in life. And then whatever follows I am should be good. I think should be good, should be powerful words, should be like, hey, whatever. And it's not about being a cocky shithead. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I tell people all the time, I was like, yeah, will I speak good of myself? Fuck yeah, I'll speak good of myself. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm badass. But it's not because I'm trying to be an asshole. It's because I know that those words are powerful.
Right.
So,
Our thoughts and our words are more powerful than we
yeah,
realize.
yes. So I will never do like it's kind of crazy because when I was younger and whatever, and I would like speak to myself and I think like, oh, I'm being cocky and be no, dude, like I'm not. I'm just now I know like I'm like no, I'm just being like 100% like confident in myself, but I'm doing it to also serve the rest of the world. You know, it's never because I think I'm better than you, because I know I'm not better than anybody. I'm just me, you know, and I love me, you know. But that's the other thing, though. Think about that shit too. You and I have talked about this. Think about people that are like in relationships and things that they don't want to be in because they're just fucking like, well, they don't like themselves, and I'm like, well, and I'm like, dude, just fucking love you. Like, love yourself. Like, I swear to you, me getting divorced after these 10 years and doing all these things and doing all this shit, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I love me. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't give a fuck. And I'm like, yeah, if I don't have anything that wants me to be with you, like, I'm not going to be with you. Like, period.
Well, you can't love others unless you love yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to give yourself full fucking love to fully love someone else. And that's why I say, like, now I like look at me and I'm like, and I now realize like I didn't love myself the way I thought I did. I thought I did back in the day, but I didn't. And so now I'm just like, dude, I love me. Like, I'm happy with me. I'm happy with who I am. And I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. And now it's funny because like fucking I'll meet people, I'll go on dates, and I'm just like, yeah, nope, I'm good. Like, I don't want to be with you.
You can't,
You know what I mean?
well, because now you're at a point where it's like, oh, your energy's fucked. So no thanks.
Yeah, no, because I'm just like, I see these people now, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, you could be good looking. This chick, you're a good looking chick. Like, okay, cool. And I'm like, but I really don't want to fucking. I'm not gonna marry you. I'm not gonna be with you. Like, and like, perfect example. Obviously, I can say it because she's not. No one's gonna know who she is. I went on a date with this chick, and here in California, and we hung out. We had a great time. She was a ton of fun. But I remember fucking like I didn't talk to her anymore, and then she was like, and I hit her up like just to throw it out there the other day, and she was like, "Well, you ignored me. You didn't say that." I was like, "I didn't ignore you." I was like, "I'm just like, hey, fucking, hey, what's up?" And she was just like, "Well," she goes, "Well, you seem like it was a one and done." I was like, "Yeah, it's probably the best idea." I go, "I don't want to be with you." I go, "I'm just telling you, like, we can hang out." And she was not happy with that. Like, and I was being sorry. Probably in the podcast is probably going to be like very negative, but I'm like, hey, I'm like, we could hang out and have fun. And I was like, you seem like a lot of fun. I go, you were a lot of fun. And she was just like, oh, she goes, well, I'm not looking for that. And I was like, well, all right, high five. But I
Well,
wouldn't.
because you were both on different wavelengths, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because she also said like, oh well, I thought you were just like one and done. I was like, no, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was just like, well, we can hang out again. I was like, but I just don't want to be. I said, I don't want to be with you. And she wasn't happy with it. I was like, okay, that's fine. Like you said, we're on a different wavelength. So like, all right, cool. Like, but at least I was honest because I wasn't always like that.
Well, that's what we say is authenticity is the best thing because if you would have pretended, then it would have been worse for you
Mm-hmm.
and her.
Yep, 100%. Because I remember telling my dad, and then I was like, yeah, I would have fucking in my past, I said I would have been like, oh well, it's cool, like let's hang out, like everything's great, and it would have been a big old problem, and then damn. And now I'm just like, nope, I don't do that anymore. I'm just like, this is the bottom line. I'm very upfront. I'm very real. Like that's it. You know.
And that's the thing, as we as humans, like that's where that monkey mind comes in. It's like, oh, we need to establish whoever I hang out with, we have to establish some type of relationship so that there has meaning. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like, well, but does it, are we on the same vibration? Yes or
Yeah.
no?
Absolutely. And you know just as well as I do, if it's a natural, like, if it's a natural flowing like relationship, does it take work? No. Right? It doesn't take work at all. It's just like 100% natural. It's like, here we go, boom, we're perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
That goes friendship, that goes sexual relationship. It doesn't matter. But people will try to make things happen, and I'm like, yeah, do you realize that it's the same thing. Like I said, like Dr. David Hawkins wrote those books, Power versus Force and Letting Go. And I always tell people, like, please read those books. I'm like, because like Power versus Force, like fucking like when you're like trying to force something, you wonder why it's always having a problem, because you're forcing something that's not meant to be.
Yeah,
Right?
that's exactly right. Because when you try to force things to work in your favor, it's never going to work out.
No. And I tell people all the time, I was like, I learned that. I was like, hey, this thing's not supposed to be for me. Cool, no problem. This person, this situation, this relationship, it doesn't matter. I'm like, cool, perfect. Like, I'm gonna let it go. Because whatever is supposed to, and this is why I think we were talking about it earlier. I was like, I believe we're being divinely guided all the time. So I tell people all the time, I was like, we have this divine guidance at all times. And I was like, we're like chess pieces being moved around, right? And you tell people that, they're gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, you're crazy." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I was like, "I'm just letting you know." I was like, "Why did that happen the way it did? Why did that work out? Why did that person come into your life? Why did that position? Why did that, whatever?" And a lot of people are like, "Well, I don't know," and I'm like, "That's the point." I was like, "We have divine guidance like all the time." Like I believe that, you know, but that's only my belief, though.
Yeah, well, some people will argue that, but it's like if two people are willing to do the work, then you can make it happen.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, I'm not saying that we don't have anything to do with it. Of course, we have free will, right? So we make decisions. But I tell people, I'm like, but listen, you just make this little decision, and God's like, bam, here we go. But a lot of people think like it's like, if you hear a lot of like motivational speakers talk on YouTube or wherever, you hear a lot of them, they're like, oh, fuck that. You gotta make it happen. You gotta make it happen. I'm like, bitch. I'm not saying you have to do anything. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I mean, I'm all about discipline. Obviously, that's why I fucking train people. That's why I do what I do, right? Because I'm about and I'm about fucking like mindset, right? Like, I mean, my clients will tell you fucking like this guy has the craziest mindset in the world. Like, it's not about that I fucking like, but I just believe that I am being divinely guided, though. I believe that that's why I'm here. But yeah, like I will fucking tell you, like, yeah, you got to fucking make decisions. So of course, you got to get up and do it because I
Yeah,
fucking had
if you rely on other people to do the work for you, you're never going to be successful.
no, exactly. But that's the prop. See, exactly, perfect, perfectly, perfectly stated the way you said it. Is that fucking like because there's people that like think that well, if I just do this, like, well, everybody's gonna do it for me. No, bitch. Like, no, you got to do it yourself. You got to get up and do it. But then the universe all of a sudden opens the doors, and you're like, oh shit, like, how'd this happen? Well, because you fucking decided to go and not be an idiot.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I guess you could say, spiritually. Like, if it doesn't resonate with you, then fucking don't do it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you should always follow. It goes back down to our gut, right? Like they say gut, like whatever.
Like your intuition.
Your intuition is always gonna speak to you. Always. Dude, you and I had conversations in the past where I was like dating girls, doing things, doing stupid shit, partying, whatever. And I knew, like 100% knew that I shouldn't be doing certain things. And what happened? It didn't turn out well. I'm like, yep. I'm like, dem, like you knew it. That's our intuition. That's what I'm saying. It's like spiritually, I already knew. That's why I'm so into it now that I listen to me and I'm like, oh, like this girl doesn't seem right. I'm like, yep, yeah, no, you're not gonna hang out with her anymore. Like you're done. You know what I mean? Like the ego is like she's hot, and the spirit's like, no, she's not. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm good.
Yeah,
That's
well,
it.
that's the thing. Sometimes we can't see past a lot of people can't see past the physical realm and our monkey mind, so we're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what society does.
Yeah, dude. And I'm now at a place. Thank God that I'm at a place now. I'm just like when I hear it, I'm like, yeah, no. I'm like, no, I'm good. And women will be like, what the fuck happened to you? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you want to like you know why we hung out one time? I was like, yeah, because I was like, I don't want to be with you. I was like, I'm good.
Do you
I
think?
was like,
Do you think that fucking if aliens existed, do you think they go through the same shit?
I don't know. You know what? I don't think so. So, and the reason I say I don't think so is because I've heard, which again, this is just, I guess, people's speculations or whatever, but is that fucking like aliens don't have any like they're so fucking like their energy is so high that they're way above like our stupid intellect. And and oh, so the other thing is, think about this. Think about intellect. Fucking Ramdas, and if anybody that's like listening to our stuff probably knows who Ramdas is. That was Richard Alpert. He was Ramdas. He was fucking like he was a Harvard professor back in the day, and but he went to India and he went and like learned. He got away from like Harvard and he went, he did LSD, he did all shit. Anyway, he talked about it. He was like, yeah, he goes, he literally like one of his sayings. He said, he goes, yeah, people said something about intellect, and he goes, yeah, he goes, look at where our fucking dumbass intellect got us. He's like, it got us into fucking a bunch of dumbass shit, you know? And I'm like, it's 100% truth, you know? Ramdas was fucking like spiritually intelligent like a motherfucker. Like when he went over to India and did all this shit, and he became one of our best fucking teachers. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, but yeah, but you're gonna follow because see, Americans think like fucking like, well, I'm smart. And like, bitch, you're smart, you're an idiot. Like fucking just because you fucking got like 4.0, no one cares. Like no one cares. It's like you're an idiot. Like, seriously. And I tell people all the time, I was like, I think about like I think about when I was a paramedic. I remember going through fucking paramedic school and having these people in my paramedic class because we had a 70% failure rate, and a lot of people fell out of our class. But some of the ones that had like fucking 90 plus like percent like on all their shit, dude, when they went into their fucking internships, they were fucking morons. And I'm just like, dude, and we were like, what the fuck? You guys have no clue how to fucking be a paramedic on the streets. Like, you can literally go do this stupid fucking class, but you have no fucking clue how to be out here.
Well,
You
because
know?
there's a difference between book smarts and street smarts.
Oh, bro, all the time. All the time. I tell people all the time. I was like, you wonder why I fucking went through shootings and went through all this shit? When I was young, I was like, yeah, because God was like, hey, I'm gonna use you as a fucking smart ass paramedic, motherfucker. And I was like, yeah, no shit. Because it wasn't about the fucking stupid fucking books. It was about like, oh, you know how to be out here. It was like, no shit.
Yeah, being able to interact with other people is a gift.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Think about people that can't. I mean, how many people? There's a lot of people that can't talk to anybody else. You know?
Well, they do, and they just come off as assholes.
Yeah, they just come off as idiots, and they're just like fucking like, who's this fucking bozo? You know? It's like, but then like, we have us that like fucking like, I mean, I tell people all the time, how do I build my business? Loving people. And then people were like, oh my god, like fucking like, oh my god, this now. I was like, yeah, because I love people. I was like, I love people. I was like, people are amazing. That's why we're here. They're
Yep.
just like, oh, you know. And I was like, but then I see, and I get there's people that are introverts and whatever, no problem. But like me, fucking, you put me in any situation. Well, you saw it. We were hanging out. I fucking, we had a good time in North Carolina.
Send me to the wolves. I'll come back leading the pack.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Fuck yeah, dude.
I think that a lot of people just get. I think a problem with us is that like we are so much more than what society has allowed us to be that people just get so wrapped up in their daily lives that they don't they're blind to a lot of things.
Yes, yes. And we were, and well, not we were, but we, yeah, we don't conform.
No, do not comply.
We don't. I tell people all the time. I was like, "Oh, those are the rules." I'm like, "Yeah, fuck them." I was like, "I don't care." People
Oh, you
are,
want me to do this? Yeah, no thanks.
they're all like, "You're supposed to do that." I'm like, "Oh, for real?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're a joke." Like, yeah, fuck you. Like, I'm gonna go do my own thing, and I've always done that. I've always done that my whole life, and like, people always said, my mom says that too. She was just like, she goes, "You've always had like such a good heart. You love everybody." She goes, "But you really don't care what anybody else thinks." So I was like, "I
Well,
don't." I was like, "I don't. I don't give a fuck.
well,
Like, you don't like me? Fuck you."
well. What did you tell me? God doesn't judge us based off our actions. He judges us off the intent of our heart.
Absolutely. That's why I always say 100%. I always tell people it's biblical. Jesus said it's not about what you fucking do. It's about your intention internally. It's literally in the Bible. And I tell people all the time, like, fucking, you want to live good? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, then what's your intent? Like, what's your heart's intention every day? Um, and I think about like, and I say this, and I don't say this because like, not to like back myself up or anything like that. But I think about like my exes and shit, and like, and they'd be like, "Oh, this and that, whatever." And I was like, "Dude, I was like, I've always had nothing but good intent, and I've always given good. That's why I fucking have done what I've done. That's why God used me the way God used me forever and ever to help people." And I was like, "But like, do I still want to fuck around and have a good time in this like fucking like worldly life?" Like, yeah. I'm like, I just tell people, I'm like, hey, I'm like, I'm all about spirit. I was like, but I was like, you have to have a balance, right? I was like, so I am human. And I was like, so while I'm human, I'm gonna fuck around and have a good time, you know? And people are like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah. I was like, no shit. I was like, but I'm not negative. Like my shit's always fucking positive, you know?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
because we're so focused on the physical realm and performing and our jobs and fucking like trying to do the right thing that the TV tells us to do that we don't listen to our inner divinity.
yep.
And a
100%.
lot of people like when you talk about religion, like how many fucking Christians are like, "Oh, that person's a piece of shit. Why are you thinking that?" Just because I don't know. Because they're fucking programmed to think that if someone's different from them, they're a piece of shit.
Why do you think churches, dude? This is my thing. And this is a part of the problem. I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm like, there are, and I have nothing against, and I'm gonna put this out there right now, like publicly, like I have nothing against any religion. Love your religion. Believe me, I was raised Catholic. I went to Christian church for a long time. Like, don't get me wrong, but like you said, I've seen these people over and over say, "Hey, fucking, I love my church family." That's the other thing. I love my church family. Okay, wait a minute. So our God says like love everybody, right?
Yep.
And love them all unconditionally, right? So you're telling me you only love the people that go to your church. How the hell is that the true Christian way?
Well,
The way
here's the thing. How do you
so,
truly know that concept? Like, how do you truly know the intent of the people that go to your church?
well, no shit. But that's the thing. It's that's also the thing, right? Is you have these people in your church, they're showing up on Sunday or whatever day, and they're over there fucking like, oh my god, like they're doing great. And then they're over there fucking off doing something goofy 2 days later, and I'm like, hey, I'm not putting them down. I'm not judging them, you know. I'll tell you this, and I'll tell the story only because like fucking no one know nobody know what I don't think anybody know what I'm talking about. But so my maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, fuck it. So my ex-wife's so my ex-wife's fucking her dad was a pastor at this church, right? And this guy fucking this guy was a CHP there. He was a fucking, highway patrol in California. And yeah, people probably know what this is now, but we'll see. Anyway, fucking this guy he ended up like connecting with a couple other people within that city and they killed this dude. They fucking basically they executed him. And this guy is fucking over here, like, like going to the church, like, oh my god, like fucking I'm over here doing this, And I'm not putting him down. I'm saying because he made a mistake. Um, and then all of a sudden he got caught up. Obviously, fucking people caught him up, and fucking I think he had to go to prison for a little bit. And I'm just like, but I'm like, dude, I'm like, see, and I'm like, but in that church, they were like, oh, you're good if you go to this. I'm like, you're good. This motherfucker's over here executing somebody like on the fucking side. And the rest of us, we're over here being our normal fucking, like, not normal, but like, like, hey, like, I love people. And they're just like, oh, well, fuck. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? And I'm like, that's what I'm saying with these churches sometimes. I'm just like, you guys don't get it, dude. Like, you don't motherfucking get it. You guys think like, oh, my church family, you motherfuckers are all corrupt. Fuck you.
Oh, don't get me started on that. Oh man. But
Oh,
we got about 2 minutes left.
yeah.
So did you want to do a closing out prayer or meditation before
Absolutely.
we
For sure. I'm gonna do a closing prayer for us. So thank you, God, for this opportunity, this moment, this time. Thank you for Nate. Thank you for our ability to have these conversations, and I pray that we use them to serve other people. I know that we do have our own opinions in them, but I tell you right now that we do mean well. Our heart is pure, and we're meant to really put this out there to serve people and help people see the truths of this life. Um, I send out great love, great peace, great joy, great healing, great abundance for all of humanity and all of the animal world. We thank you and we love you. Amen.
Amen. Well, that's the thing, dude. Like in closing, I'll say that what you were just talking about reminds me of a lot of times we as humans we think when we make a mistake it's the end of the world, but that's
Yeah,
how we grow. That's how we learn. So like it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them.
absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, some of my biggest spiritual growth has been after a fall, after a night of a fall.
Well, that's why, dude, when they talk about the concept of shadow work.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've done plenty of fucking shadow work, dude. Like when you look into the deepest, darkest parts of your soul, you're like, okay, it's
So,
painful. It's a little painful. It kind of sucks. But when you come out the other side, you're like, oh, that's how you grow. Like David Goggins is like, when you have negativity and you work in your shadow, there's strength in that. There's growth in that because you're learning to be a better person.
so Ramdas said, and I love work, like I said, learning from him. He said, you have to accept every aspect of who you are. He goes, all your intricacies, all your fucking, like, all your bullshit. He goes, you have to accept it, right? And so he said, I learned how to invite my other side in for tea. That's how he would explain it. He goes, I'd be at home and be like, hey, come in, dum dum. Like, that's what he did. He was like, come in. He was like, come on in, because you're here anyway. You're gonna be here. And when I heard him say that, I was like, ah, fuck, I get it. I was like, that's what you're talking about. He's like, yeah. He's like, fucking dumb dumb. He's like, you're gonna light. He goes, your other side of you is there. He's like, it's never gonna go away. And that's what he said. He goes, yeah. He goes, I used to think. When I was in India and I was over there doing all my spiritual work. He goes, I was thinking like, oh yeah, like I'm not gonna be this guy anymore. He goes, and it just kept coming back. He goes, I remember I had to do this, like he had to do this, like this spiritual, like meditation for like fucking like this long ass period. He said, he goes, the first 8 hours of it, he goes, was nothing but sexual fantasies. And I was what the fuck? And I'm like, but he was being honest. He was like, yeah. He goes, I had 8 hours of sexual fantasies.
Yeah,
He goes,
but think about that though. How many people don't work through that, and that's why they have all these problems.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like he said, he goes, I just let it come through. Like, fuck it. Like, like fucking, like, here we go. Like fucking sexual fantasies. Here we go. I fucking, he goes, I worked it all the way down to the fucking, to the sheets. And I was he goes, it was all the way down to the fucking linen sheets. And I was like, motherfucker. But I love it though, because he was just like, he knew. And I'm like, see, that's what I'm saying. And but how many of us though, how many of us truly face that kind of shit?
Well, that's the thing that we're talking about when you, in closing, that's kind of what our whole concept of this episode is like we talked about how where we come from, are we really the result of another alien race or whatever the fuck, right? But it's
Yeah.
like, but it's like people, the problem with society now is that everyone's so comfortable that no one ever wants to confront the uncomfortable.
Yep.
And that's
Yes.
what that's the conversation I had with my wife yesterday with the concept of being a warrior or being okay with death. When you think about the concept of death, it's uncomfortable, but metaphorically it relates to you live and die many times throughout your life. There's a part of you that lives and dies, then that's the
Over
only way that you grow.
and, yeah. Over and over. Yeah.
So like if you never work through it, then you're just going to be miserable the whole time. Because you're
Well,
still, when you don't release it, when you don't work through the darkness and release, the only way to release negativity is to work through it. And if you don't work through it, you're just going to keep holding on to it and you're going to be miserable.
yep. But and what do we think though? We're we're taught, especially like fucking religiously, and I say religious because I'm not gonna say spiritual, religiously, that we have one life, right? Yeah,
That's
one
not
life.
true.
Yeah,
My
one life.
dude,
And
I meant to tell the story during this podcast is that my mother-in-law did a reading. I won't say in the way that she did it because people will be like, "Oh my god." But have you ever heard of pendulum shit?
uh, yeah, a little bit. I don't know too much about it though.
Okay, so what you do is you have a pendulum and it's like a crystal at the end of it. So she had an obsidian, which is my stone. That's the stone I have all the time, an obsidian with me because it's grounding and
Mm.
it protects you from evil and all this other stuff. And speaking about souls and whatnot, she did it. This is when we lived in Connecticut. Dude, she did that. I always believed, I was like, I've always believed in like what you're talking about was like, we think that we're just going to be one and done and whatever, and that this is our own life.
Yeah,
This is
no.
our one chance, our one life. And she did this reading for me, and I always believed it. I was like, I believe I've been reincarnated many times. She did this fucking pendulum reading. And what you do is you hold it straight, right? And it's a chain with a crystal at the end. And it was an obsidian type of crystal. And she's like, all right, I'm going to ask you a question. And she's connecting, but at the same time, like you said when I told you about channeling, she's channeling to her guides.
Yeah.
So the question I asked her was like, how old is my soul? And she held it just like this in front of her. And I watched, her arm wasn't moving, her hand wasn't moving. And as you ask it questions, it starts to swing, right? So she's like, is his soul this many age or this old and whatever? And then basically it ended in if it swings one way, it's a no. If it swings like this way or this way, right? It's yes or no. But she asked it, is his soul 1,000 years old? And it fucking went crazy.
Wow.
And I'm like, I fucking knew it. Like I've been here. That's why in this lifetime I feel so old because I'm just like, and I joke about this with certain people, and I'm like, But that's kind of why I think I can see through certain bullshit because I'm just like, I've been here, I've been around this,
Yeah.
you know? And like the fact that it was like kind of solidified in that
Yeah.
manner to me, like you can, people will probably comment on this or whatever and be like, ah, that's fucking not right. But I've always been, like you said earlier, I've always, like, you feel the same way I do, and that I've always been different from people. I always see through bullshit.
Yep.
And a part of that, I think, is because my soul is so old. Like, I'm just fucking over it, bro. Like, I'm over the petty bullshit of mankind
As
because
much
my
as we
soul is like 1,000 years old. I'm like, I've
as,
been through everything.
as much as we've tried to fit into these fucking places, like I'm just like, dude, I'm like, fuck you. I don't care. I don't fucking fit in. Like that's why I fucking am the way I am. And like you said, it's like, dude, swear to God, like it's so crazy because it's the same shit. People told my mom, used to tell my mom when she became a teacher, and they were like, yeah, like Brian's soul's like he has an old soul. He has an old soul.
I've
And
always been, dude, I've always been told that. Even my history teacher.
I, yeah, and when I was young, I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, oh, I have an old soul. Now I'm like, oh, no wonder. I was like, that's why I never
That's
fit.
why, dude,
Never fit.
that's why, dude, that is exactly why I yearn. I try to do my best in this life so I don't have to fucking come back. I'm just like, let me be done. Please. Let me learn the lessons I need to learn in this one and I can just ascend. Because there's a theory
Yeah.
or there's a belief that if you learn, even if you're, whether you're 1,000-year-old soul or a fucking newbie, right? If you learn all the lessons you're supposed to learn, then you ascend to be like a watcher or a guardian and you watch over others.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if you ever heard about that, but
I,
this might be an interesting topic for another episode. But like I'm at the point, me and my wife are kind of at the same point because we believe that we've been reincarnated together for so long that
yeah.
when me and my wife met, it was just like instant, you know? And it's
Yep.
like, you know how we were talking about soulmates earlier,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And it's like, what do I have to do to not come back here? That's our whole mindset in this life. What do I have
Well,
to do? What do I have to learn? What do I have to portray? What do I have to fucking educate people on so I don't have to come back here?
you and
Be-
I've had that, and I'm
Because
just
there's a theory that the earth is kind of like almost a prison to souls, that the earth not really, okay, maybe a prison is the wrong term, maybe more so a school is the correct
cool.
term.
Cool. I'm,
Like
I'm, I'm with me.
the earth is a school for souls who haven't quite learned yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, it's a school. Like Dolores Cannon. Like I said, if you were to listen to Dolores Cannon, she talks about the school of Earth. So it's a school of Earth. Like that's why we're here. You know what I mean? So we're here for the school of Earth.
Well, that's the thing, is it's the toughest school to be a part of. Like like man, it's this is a complex thing. This is gonna have to be another episode because I could talk about this for 5 hours. But we're all supposed to be here. We're all here for a reason. And me and Brian had talked about how those of us who can see through the bullshit of society are here to educate others to awaken. So if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if this resonates with you, comment down below on any experiences that you had with the same concept of growing, the concept of where we come from, what your thoughts are from the Anunnaki. Uh, are we engineered? Do we come from, is there a human race that's across the galaxies? Or, and don't discount it, because don't let it lead you to believe that there is no God, because you have to be, if you think, even if you just think logically, if the Anunnaki are real, reincarnation is real, then where did all these other species and where did everything else come from? You have to be able to be open minded. That's the whole point. That is one of the points of why we have this podcast of Warriors of Light, is because that warrior mindset isn't just being a warrior doesn't just mean you fight in war. That's not what a warrior is defined as. A warrior is defined as someone who fights for others. So think for yourself. Don't believe everything you see on the TV. And the best way to start to think for yourself is to connect with yourself through meditation, to connect with nature, and to really, instead of trying to follow your quote unquote programming, try to question the things that we're told every day, because there's a lot more to humanity than what a lot of people or a lot of mainstream media portrays. So, but that's the end of our podcast tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. And I will end this with a prayer, if you don't mind, Brian. I will end this with the Our Father.
I don't mind at all, brother. Go ahead.
All right. So, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, where we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.